Welcome to High Five. Welcome back. We've got a lovely guest with us today. We have Sarah Parrott. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Rory.
Well, I'll do a high five just to start with. There we go. Right up to the camera. Marvelous. Thank you. We had a lovely nomination a few weeks ago from Olga to talk about Sarah. Just before we go into that, how does Monday find you, Sarah?
Yeah, good. The sun's shining. I think it's supposed to be quite warm today, and obviously my child's still in school, second week in a row. So this is good going so far. So it's all good. But yeah, lots of kind of worky stuff to sort of crack on with a bit later and whatnot, and hopefully get out for a run. But yeah, it's all looking good for Monday.
Good. Well, I've got 3 back at school today for the first time. Well, the first time since Christmas, actually. All 3 are back in school today, so I'm kind of gradually going, please, we've only got a few more weeks till summer. Let them just be there for the duration. That would be sweet if that happens. And
I love that you're both saying that, because it makes me feel like less of a bad parent for celebrating the fact that Joseph is back now and Jude's back. I think it was just, you find out what you're good at in life and you find out what you're not when you have to homeschool.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not cut out to be a teacher.
I know you have to tip your hat to them and just say, do you know what? Teachers do a great job and I love them and I'll always support them from this point forward.
Yeah,
I can't remember, but it was somebody on High Five a few weeks ago, and it might have been Olga actually that said you're not a parent, you're an emergency teacher, and you need to see yourself through that lens. It's like break glass. There's a teacher there and a parent to get things done. So it's a big juggling act that we've all done. Before we go into the card, I just wanted Sarah to share a few things that Olga Pila shared with us about yourself, and I'll talk a little bit into this about how I've got to know you through the course of you winning HR pub quizzes, because you won a few weeks ago as well, celebrating.
Yeah, first time in a year.
Marvelous. Olga described you in a number of different ways. One of the word phrases she used, she says, she was talking about obviously her own new world of work that she's in, and she used the phrase during the language of that to describe it as a complete circle of the rainbow. And she said, I would also describe my friend Sarah in that same light, because she shines so much light through the darkness. And I think that's such an appropriate term of everything that we've all experienced in different ways over the course of the last 18 months, about how much light that you've shown for others with your, again, I'll use some of her language here, your understated strength, your gentle hope, and your quiet beauty. I think if anyone describes you back to like that, you've got to be one hell of an amazing human being. So I just loved that. And again, we haven't really chatted in an audio sense. It's been instant messaging all the time on HR pub quiz chat and everything as well. But some of the words that I was writing down when I was thinking this morning about, you know, how I find you, Sarah, when I've interacted with you as well, there's definitely an honesty, a strength, a comfort, and a lot of strength in your ability to juggle different things all the time. And when I went and read that little piece that you'd put on the top of your Twitter profile about one of me and half of you, about being, as you call yourself on Twitter as well, Resili-Mum, about your journey with Charlie, I was just blown away by it. I think it needs to be shared and celebrated the life out of it, because I think it's a beautifully written piece, and I'm embarrassed I hadn't read it before this morning actually, but I thought it was wonderfully written. So that's how I've found, from what Olga said and what I've found as well, Sarah. I really appreciate you spending time to chat through your rainbow. So do you want to kick off and you can tell us a wee bit about you, and how you would describe what you do or who you are, or what you want to say about yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. I mean, firstly, obviously, when Olga sort of like nominated me and sort of did that bit around Be the Rhythm, when I listened to what she said, I was just like, oh my gosh, it. And I think when I've looked at sort of some of the videos that are associated with the card, and obviously Kirsty's kind of showing off, somebody nominated me for this, I did actually sort of feel myself well enough when Olga was kind of using those words to describe me, because I suppose because I am always kind of one of those people that is quietly in the background, like I'm kind of one of those ones that I'm kind of just there. and to sort of actually be thought of and nominated for something, I was like really sort of flattered, you know, and it was just really lovely of what Olga said, to be honest. So thank you, Olga, for that. And yeah, so I'm you know, single parent, as already mentioned. I think the reason why this is always such a big deal to me is because Charlie was about 6 months old when I became a single parent, and I think, you know, most people into parenthood, you sort of never go into it thinking that you're going to be a single parent in 6 months into the child's life. And, you know, like for like various reasons, Charlie's dad and myself just didn't see eye to eye, and he's sort of got a separate life now, and it's sad because he sort of doesn't really see Charlie. So literally I am not even just doing co-parenting, it is literally single parenting. And it's coming up 9 years actually since we've been doing that together now. And I have like a great support network in terms of my family, you know, like when we could support bubble last year, it just meant so much to me that I had like a family bubble that I could like be with my mum and stuff like that and have that support, because you know, as you know, when you've got children, have the challenging moments. And I think that's kind of like, I mean, it must have been like around about that time when kind of Resili-Mum come almost into being, because, you know, going back to work full time when Charlie was about 9 months old, you know, it was one of those things that I just always thought, because I need to keep a roof over our heads and things like that, I felt like I didn't have the choice to sort of do part-time and things like that. So I kind of forged ahead. And so the other bit of me is I'm a HR professional for the civil service. And you know, that's like a big part of my identity, because I love my profession, I love what I do. So it's not just a job, it's kind of more than a job, it is my career. And, you know, aside from sort of Charlie, like that's the other big bit of me and whatnot. So, and I think you know, you sort of recognize, don't you, when you're sort of more exposed to kind of people's working lives through a career in HR, is like sometimes what the challenges are, and then when you've had to go through them yourselves, like how important it is to have employers that, you know, like really welcome diversity, flexibility. And as a sort of an individual, I've had to sort of tap into some of that to help that work for me and develop and grow my career, because I was kind of like, at the time, you know, there was some voices that were saying like, you know, just hold back, just spend your time with Charlie, like, you know, just don't think about going for promotions and stuff like that. But I had this other side of me going, well, why shouldn't I? Like, you know, I need, you know, I want to sort of, you know, a good life for us. And I wanted to sort of still have that professional identity that I was growing. So I've kind of like pushed through sort of different barriers and things like that to sort of keep the momentum going to a point on all of that. So, so that's kind of me, like my two big things, generally my son and work, I guess.
It's magical. I just think there's so much strength in everything you described there about what you do and how you managed to do it so well. The one sentence that jumped out for me when I was reading that piece was, "A model, a cuddle is quite often a fuddle." I just think there's so much honesty in that one sentence, and I love it. I think it's magic. Brilliant to hear.
I think one of the things is, doesn't matter, like me and my son, he's sort of 9.5 now. And it just feels like every year, every development milestone is always a different challenge, because sometimes in your head you're like, oh, we'll just get to this and then it'll be fine, and we'll just get to this bit and it'll be fine, and we can kind of settle. But I just find like we're always sort of juggling. It's like about managing your energy as well. Like sometimes after, you know, you've had a full week at work, or, you know, I used to commute down to York on a regular basis, so out at 7, back at 6, then you've got to do all of the housey stuff and whatnot, do the homework or the reading. And sometimes I just get to the weekend and just like, oh, I'm just done. And I think, like, you know, in my head sometimes I'm like, I always feel like I'm just kind of surviving, you know, like you just feel like you're treading water and going along. But then I think when you look back and you think, actually, yeah, I've done all right there. And I think none of us really take the time to do that very often, do we? Because we're just sort of, you know, in the moment of what's in front of us.
Well, if you've watched previous High Fives, you'll know that Rory owns a toy shop.
Yeah.
Yes, and actually, I apologize because I had to hit mute halfway through that, because I heard somebody doing a delivery down in the toy shop. So if you did hear it in the background, I apologize. But it's a good time, because that means there's new toys arriving and new games arriving. But yeah, I mean, Sarah, I just love what you've just told us, and it's, you know, one of the things that I'm most gracious of, the fact that I get to create an environment for kids first and foremost, for them to be able to come and have fun and explore, and the joys of just discovering a new toy or a new game. But also, one of the things that I've found since we opened the Experience Centre here in particular is the joy that parents, whether it's moms, dads, mom, couple of kids, dad, couple of kids, whatever the case has been, they've just loved coming and hanging out with the kids. And there's a real sense of energy you get when a parent or a carer or guardian gets to play with a young person, and the young person's enthusiasm really gravitates back to them. There's a real electricity about it, and that's one of the things that I've loved. And as a child of a single parent who was brought up with other siblings, I sometimes don't know how my mum did it. And Scott has met my mum, and my mum's a battler. You know, she's come through an awful lot in her life, including transplant surgery and everything else. And I sometimes just look back and go, that's a warrior. You know, anyone who can raise kids like that and just do it on their own, and they have incredible support bubbles around them. But when it comes down to it, you know, that's an incredible job that you're doing. So I tip my hat to you.
Yeah, it always like makes me feel like a bit like, because I know like obviously the day-to-day struggles that I have with Charlie, and when people say stuff like that, I always feel a bit like I shrink kind of a bit and go, no, because we're just kind of doing what we have to do and whatnot. But yeah.
I sometimes wonder how my mum, because I've got teenage boys now myself, and you know that time in the week when you do the grocery shop and you put it all away and you think, oh, how are we going to get through all this food? And 24 hours later, all that food's gone. So I wonder how my mum survived with that, with 2 teenage boys, 2 teenage girls at times as well. And then all of our friends who used to come in as well, and made sure that they were fed, and that, you know, it's just decimation of grocery stores is how I describe parenting.
Yeah, I think that's it. Over the past year, obviously, with being kind of the homeschool environment, you know, being at home, like having like that constant snack supply, and definitely when I've had like meetings that I've had to go to, and it's definitely been like, all right, there's your snacks to keep you occupied. And it's like just go through the things that are really.
So I don't think Rory got the rainbow memo. Sarah, I think you're adorning rainbows as well today.
Rainbow.
Oh, well, the beautiful thing about Cognitize cards is we've always got our own rainbow. So we've actually got a rainbow on the large card right here behind me.
So on the ball every time. Well, Olga obviously nominated this card for you, Sarah, which is Be a Rainbow. And as I said earlier in my introduction, it's because you described yourself as that complete circle of a rainbow. I thought we'd just ask you about what that card means to you, and maybe what kind of learning that you've noticed, that you've been a part of, that you've imparted in others, that's rainbow focused or been about positivity for you of late.
Yeah, so I think it was really sort of interesting that obviously kind of when Olga did that, and then she put the rainbow, because to me, and like I suppose a lot of us, but rainbows are quite meaningful to me, because I always feel like when I've had like a really tough time, somehow like a rainbow will appear, like, and I'll be like, I'll look at it and I just love the beauty of rainbows and just how they kind of come from this natural phenomena, and they always give me hope. And I know like this is like really daft, because like, so the Katy Perry song Firework always like says like there's a line in it that goes, after a hurricane comes a rainbow. And I just love that, because, you know, a lot of the time life can be a bit just challenging, and I think always remembering like there are kind of rainbows along the way. And obviously stuff like with the HR pub quiz crew, I just think because we've just had this ongoing kind of dialogue, and it doesn't really matter who's present at the time, because like people drift in and out, and that's all absolutely fine. But I think I've kind of found that there's kind of a real balance of people sharing the challenges, but when people share the challenges, everybody kind of brings that light and that rainbow to that person. And it's just been, for me, if I didn't have had that HR pub quiz group over the past year or so, I just don't know like what life would have been like, to be quite honest, because, you know, it's been that kind of constant, and it has been that kind of rainbow really in kind of my world, where it's, you know, well, a lot of our worlds have just been quite challenging. And you know, obviously really thankful to Selena for sort of creating that space where we've all been able to sort of come together and sort of find that really.
And we should all blow a big kiss to Selena right now.
Yeah. Love you.
Yeah. Do you know, I joined it, I think, when did I join your group? It must be about September time, because it was round about just when Jo and I had been working on Kindfest, and she invited me into the group. And when somebody sends you a message and says, "Oh, join this group, you like it, Scott," there's a lot of kind of commonality with the stuff that you do. And I was really, it really took me back how quickly you felt at home with a group of people who are a new one person within the entire community so quickly. And I think the moment that really shone for me this year for me personally was on my birthday this year. I generally, Rory will text me on my birthday. A couple other people will remember. But the amount of lovely, genuine, Scott-centered messages that were really about the things that I like via that quiz group on that day were just beautiful. I mean, I say my birthday, I'll get my friends like Rory and Kirsty and others sending me lovely messages, but to see so many people who I've never ever met in person just send so many lovely heart-centered messages was proper rainbow. So I mean, you're a big contributory factor to that as well, and what you do with it as well.
Yeah, I do just sort of think that, kind of the learning, I suppose, from that for me is just sometimes when there's a tough day, there's always going to be something better that happens. Like the day will pass, like that storm will pass, and then there's something brighter that will happen. And I think over the last year, because we've kind of had a bit of more of that time to step back and notice, I feel like I've actually seen a lot more rainbows like outside, because we've not been like necessarily all anchored to computer screens all day long, or you've had just sort of, if you've got children, like had your child sort of get out for a walk and entertain, and then like that is giving you that opportunity to kind of step back, and in that kind of storminess that we're kind of all navigating, like there is beauty to be found. And I think that's what kind of rainbows really represent to me, is just that beauty that kind of just unexpectedly crops up.
It's wonderful. There's a word in Gaelic actually called tuirda, which means a break in the clouds brings sunshine. So when you get that moment before the rainbow arrives, when it's been stormy and cloudy, there's a break in the clouds, and then the sunshine actually appears. And I think, again, the contribution that everyone brings to that group, what you in particular bring to that group, is definitely an element of that Tuirda approach. About that break in the clouds comes some optimism and some sunshine. And I'm sure that Rory's noticed that loads in your interactions, not just with Red Knight Toy Group, but the stuff that you certainly see in social media interactions as well. It makes such a big difference when there's a lot of positivity in there.
Yeah, I just think there are tough times in life, and there's times when we all have to navigate the darker days and the challenges that come along, as Sarah said. And I don't think I've ever met anybody who didn't automatically feel a little glimpse of positivity when they see a rainbow. And there's so much folklore and mythology in Ireland in particular about rainbows, and obviously that led on to the Lucky Charms. And a couple of months ago, I had to buy a box of Lucky Charms cereal. For other cereals are available, I should say, for my son. And I was just kind of remembering back to it, the first time I discovered them many years ago in the States when I was in New York, and just there's just something wonderful about rainbows and the ideas of rainbows and lots of color. And the old television show, obviously, the theme tune being "Paint the Whole World with a Rainbow." If you could paint the whole world with a rainbow, or just someone's world with a rainbow for a few minutes each day, I think it's just an incredible opportunity to inject positivity, as you're saying, Sarah. And that's what I hope that we do here at Merchants of Fun, because since we opened, there was incredible stories that came along that I didn't expect when we first opened, because we thought we were opening an experience game center. And some of the parents that approached us with maybe children that had additional needs that we were able to help with. And we didn't expect that, because we are retailers first and foremost, but being able to show them games that they could get some play with. And I think the rainbow moments that came there, Scott, were, and I know I shared this with you in the past, was some of the children just being able to engage with the prints for the first time that year when they hadn't previously, because maybe they were non-verbal. That was just an incredibly powerful moment for me. And I think you have to find those rainbow moments in your day. You need to look for them. And funnily, when I was driving to the office this morning, I heard a pretty powerful interview about Owen Patterson. I'm not sure what the interview was about, but you'll find it on 5 Live, I think. And it was just an incredibly moving story as to just making sure that you're checking in with people when you think that they need it the most. You know, if it's somebody that if we're all back to our offices soon and you see someone at the coffee machine, or you see someone looking like they're not having a great day, just check in with them. And how powerful is that? Just to be able to say, how you doing? Especially on a Monday morning or a Friday afternoon, whatever the case might be, just being able to check in or share your favorite joke with someone, or just share a YouTube clip that's just going to make them light up. And for me, it's songs. I love sharing songs with people. I love sharing songs with my 2 sons as well, that just make them feel a little bit more elevated each day.
That's all we thought.
Yeah, so I'll have to check out your shop, Rory, because well, hopefully when things are lifted, we'd really like to come to Belfast, because Charlie always had this obsession with the Titanic.
Okay.
So like, even sort of before this, was like, right, we'll have to kind of get planned and organise a bit of a trip to Belfast. But I think yeah, like children and games, like it can just unlock so much with them. And you know, when like that's one of the things I find challenging, is finding that time and space sometimes to make time to sort of sit down and play a game and things like that. And you sort of know that your child's going to really benefit and relish that opportunity, but again, it's just finding the space and creating that space and time to be able to do it, isn't it? But yeah.
Well, as synchronicity would have it, so 25 minutes from now, I'm having a member of the commercial team from the Titanic Museum here. And actually, the window that's right beside me here, that's one of our tables that we can book for families to play and explore games together. And if you look out the window, you can see the Titanic Museum. So when you come, my commitment from start now is...
Can you see Titanic Museum from your office?
Yeah, upstairs. You can just look across.
I was going to say, shows right now.
I'll try to show you. Let me see if I can. No, it's across from trees, so it's like right out this window in the background. Anyway,
I can see the motorway, the overway, the signs of the.
You might see it. So it's just over there, and it sort of looks like the top of the ship, right? So my commitment, Sarah, is that when you come to Belfast, we will book you the Imaginosity play table, which is right here. You're going to be able to see the museum, and after you're finished playing, we'll go over and we'll spend the family day there. We'll get you some tickets.
Oh, cool. That'd be great.
I want to go. Can I go?
So that's my way of just trying to be the rainbow back to Sarah for being so gracious for coming on today with us.
Before we ask you what card you picked and for who for the nomination stage, you were just as you were talking there between both of your stories and conversations. No, I don't think you should ever underestimate the little 5-minute conversations you have with a young kid as your own child. It makes such a difference. I went cycling at the weekend, and I went up to Galloway Forest, and I was sitting up at Lochdoon, and I got a puncture, and I was sitting at the side of the road waiting for another cyclist to go past, because my pump was knackered. It wasn't pumping up. I thought, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I've got no phone signal. Mary's going to be getting stressed out because I told her we're back for 2:30, and it's now 1:45, and I'm about 2 hours from home. I'm going, oh my God. And I saw this guy walking towards me with a rucksack on. Kind of guy, maybe in his late 20s, with magical big beard on him, you know, proper proud of his beard. I just saw my dad and him walking towards me, because I remember my dad used to take us hill walking when we were kids up in that same area. And I had some of my happiest memories in that forest, just sitting, lighting an open fire under the stars with a tent and just watching things. And I hadn't really connected to it in that environment in the times I'd been up cycling until that moment when I broke down at the side of the forest road the other day, to think how important and how invaluable it was for those stories I had with my dad when I was probably Charlie's age, by just sitting by fire. And I even noticed on Saturday night, I lit a fire in the garden Saturday night, and I was sitting looking into the fire just silently on my own. And it just brought all those little 5-minute conversations that might have just been like humor and nonsense and playfulness. But I'm certain that a lot of them were also about respecting and appreciate what you've got and what you're given and where you are and what you're at. So I think there's so much resonance in your messaging in there about the time you spend with Charlie and how important that is to notice and be present and be that rainbow in those moments to help guide you. you know,
Yeah,
your kids and MD's kids, actually, to have those conversations with them, it's so invaluable. It really is.
We on Saturday night we went round to my dad's to go and sit in the garden there, and he's got like, his garden is like Blackpool illuminations because he's got all of these solar lights all like wired in all around the garden, so when it gets dark it's just beautiful because he's got all of these solar lights that come on. And then we had the fire pit on the go. It's so like 2021, isn't it, garden socializing. But Charlie, my dad Charlie wanted to have time to have jokes and laughter because he loves just like my dad's jokes are just always like the oldie but goodies and stuff like that. So my dad dug this dad joke book out for Charlie. So Charlie's just sat there on this stool, like under this sparkler, like disco, like with a torch, like just constantly like reading joke after joke after joke, like, you know, not even giving us a pause to kind of like sort of like process the joke. He's just reeling them off and stuff like that. So, you know, like memories like that, I think, you know, being sort of nice to carry forward. You know, it's not all about going to the cinemas and the soft plays and all of that at the moment, is it? It is genuinely about just sort of connecting, isn't it, as families and friends, sort of in kind of more basic settings, isn't it?
And those will be the memories when Charlie's no longer a half but a full. He'll look back in those times and remember the story he had in the garden with a torch more than remember going to the cinema and watching some movie that he's probably forgotten 5 minutes after he's left the cinema again. It's those memories still. Sorry, I'm criticising movies in front of Rory. I've just realised I've done that now. He's going to cut.
All right, that's all right. I can cope with it. But it's for me, it's those stories that shape you. You know, and you know, on the internet when you see all of these images that always make you reflect, and one of the images that I love the most is, you see it on Instagram and other social media platforms, where it looks like an adult is giving a piece of the jigsaw of their body to the kid who's missing that piece, and they're putting the pieces together. And I think that's what parents do and carers do. They make you up with all of the different things that go into them. And I've been reflecting on that over the weekend in particular. My dad was 8 years past last week. And I'm starting to get little intricacies of him. So I find that I can no longer drink a cup of coffee very hot. I need to put cold water in it. And I don't know if that's a psychological thing where I'm like, oh my God, I'm turning into my dad, or I'm just getting old. But it makes me kind of think back to then, as you're saying, Scott, the stories that we would have shared together. And we're coming very, very slowly now in the next 2 weeks coming out of lockdown here in Northern Ireland. And that allows me to get back to the County Down coast, which I just gravitate to in the summer because it's where I feel most grounded and alive. And it's all of the stories that he shaped with myself and my brother and sisters there that I'm now passing on to my kids, showing them how to flatfish, showing them how to, you know, find limpets and then go crabbing and stuff like that. It's just wonderful stuff that you get to do. And that story about under the stars and the torchlight, that's going to retell itself in 30 years from now, Sarah. You know, that's grounded in Charlie now, and that will retell itself to people that you haven't even met yet. So that's so exciting to just see. You know, I think that's what Merchants of Fun is to me. It's the possibility of what young people can become and bring into their future.
Yeah, and like sort of that whole like thing around play and stuff and bringing that into your adult life, it's so important, isn't it? Because I think at some point we almost forget, don't we, about actually.
We do, yeah. We get so serious and we get caught up in the day-to-day. And we talked about this last week on our clubhouse, actually, that there's a real ethos in business in particular that it's wrong to have fun. Yeah. And actually, it's right to have fun, and fun will solve problems. Fun will solve some of the biggest problems in the world, and that playful nature. So I think it's something that I want to make sure that we continue to inject where we can. And that's done by Rainbows, so we'll spread as many as we can.
Yeah, definitely.
Incidentally, the problem with your coffee, Rory, is these shitty coffee bags you still keep drinking. Just
no, this was all every cup of coffee last week. I just caught myself going, I can't drink it. And the next thing will be, if I start to complain that, oh, there's too much coffee and that, pour half of that out and give it back to me, then I know I've entered the realm of old person. So that my sons will then just be like, oh, he's just old. Just put him in a room with, just give him some toffees and he can go in there.
Right, what card then, Sarah, did you pick, and who did you pick it for? Because we say this every week in High Five when we record with people, that Rory and I don't know the card that you're going to choose or who you're going to choose, and it's always a bit
of a special magical moment for us personally, because we're then being introduced to a different conversation and a different story powered by that card, which is basically the principle of what Cognitize was created for, was for having new conversations with new people and sharing learning forward. So tell us what and who.
So the card, I mean, it was quite difficult to choose the card and the person, to be honest. I was like, oh gosh, because I don't want to sort of... So anyway, the card that I've gone for is Don't Worry, Be Happy.
Okay, let's see if we can find that one. I've got it.
So have you got your small cards?
There you go. One with a Boy George lookalike on it,
Yeah. So, and the person that I've chosen here is somebody I don't know whether you connected with on Twitter, but she's called Helen Amory. Wild Solutions. And the reason that I've chosen Helen is, so like last year she did a series of free sessions on realizing your innate brilliance, and it was something that me and a few others sort of participated in. And I just think Helen's generosity and sort of like giving that offer out to people, and she sort of gave this time and space for people. And I think the whole like don't worry, be happy, why that kind of resonates with that piece is because a lot of it is around kind of getting back to sort of your inner kind of being and connecting with your inner sort of soul and person, sort of almost some of the stuff around you. Yes, it's there, but actually like you are okay, you know, without all of that being there. Like, you know, you are okay as you are in that moment, and like whatever's kind of coming to you is right in that time. And it was kind of a bit of like I wouldn't say it's something that I fully still got my head around, but it's certainly like I know there's something in there around kind of recognizing that. And you know, obviously going back to sort of me as single parent, and like sometimes I'm like, you know, will be okay if, will be okay if, but actually you strip that all away, and actually you are okay. And sometimes there is a massive something in that don't worry, be happy. And I just feel like Helen sort of, again, like she's sort of, you know, somebody I connect with now and again, and like she's always that kind of reassuring kind of voice of support, and I know that she does that for a lot of other people as well. So that was kind of why I wanted to sort of nominate Helen.
That's brilliant. I have connected with Helen on social media before, but I've never chatted with her, I didn't know that depth of her quality of her work and what she does as well. So that'll be fascinating. A Bobby McFerrin inspired chat, if that's a reference to the song. I'm sure that Rory can whistle it. No, I don't think so.
I'm actually singing it in my head because I love the song.
Sarah, thank you very much for all your time that you spent today. Just before you go, we've done this recently in High Five, so if anyone started watching all the old ones and go, why didn't I get anything? It's just the way it's happened. It's the way it's fallen. We were in a chat this morning, and I heard you talking about the beauty of ploughmans, about a good thick wad of bread, I think you said, with cheese. Was ham involved in this equation? Ham, some nice salad, and some pickle on it. And at the same time, when I read that, 5 minutes earlier, I had been reading an article by Nigella Lawson about her favourite treats during lockdown. And she said at the top of the article, I can be ecstatically happy with bread and cheese, is what she then went into some stuff about Rex the fishmonger and these cherry wood smoked salmon and something. But anyway, she was saying bread and cheese. So what I've got for you is 2 jars of homemade chutney.
Oh, lovely.
I'm going to post to you, so you can share those amongst your household, whether it's Charlie, your dad, whoever wants to get them. So we've got a Bramley plum and spiced apple chutney, and we've got a warm apple chutney here as well, all made from the fruits of my garden. So they're going to wing their way to you. You just have to then get your hands in the wad of bread and the cheese and the ham and the salad to sort that out. The chutney's en route. Thank you very much, Sarah, for all your time again today for chatting to us. We'll finish with a high five. Thank you. Take care.
Take care. Thanks a lot. Bye.